Here they come.
Hey guys.
They're quite keen. Do you have peas for me?
I'll open a new bag for you for Mr. Dart.
Okay. Hi, that's Mrs. Dart.
I know, you want some peas? Whoa, I can't get my hand out of this. Want some peas?
Hey, Mr. Dart.
Who are you going to visit?
Honk. Oh, push baby out of the way.
You guys had lots of people throwing bread for you today. Lots of bread?
Baby Dart's hoovering up the leftovers and the spilled bits.
It's like his job in the ecosystem.
And then these coots down there, they're also hoovering.
Yeah, well,
They get
let some back for the coots.
Yeah, coots are cool as well.
Hey, Papa Dart.
So you want to talk about the dart swans? I'll tell some dart swan story.
Okay, how about you do that? I've done a lot of talking today.
Yeah, that's true. So we used to meet dart swans over here when baby Dart, who you'll see here, was just a tiny cygnet. And I have to back up because he's so close. And one day we came back and Mr. Dart, who is here feeding from my hand, was actually shot through the chest, the bottom of his neck. Oops, he's looking for peas. The bottom of his neck and the top of his chest here. There was shot through what I first called a dart, but it was a crossbow bolt that some asshole had shot him with overnight. And so he was just walking around with it, and it was sticking out both sides. And everybody was quite concerned about this. We dropped everything and called SPCA. And when we called them, we had to talk to that after hours line. And they had already received a lot of calls during the day about the swan with the dart sticking out either side of his chest. And they sent somebody out, and they couldn't catch him because he had a small baby at the time, because he had a small cygnet. He did not want to be caught by humans, and was already quite weary of humans in any case. So he was just jumped back into the water. And actually, this woman from SPCA had brought out her galoshes and walked around in the pond, in the lake, and still couldn't catch him. And Donald tried to catch him the first time.
He came right up to me.
Yeah, he did. But whenever you would try to put the blanket over his body and his wings, he would just stand up tall and flap his wings, and it was shake it off. And
gee, they're friendly, aren't they?
Yeah.
Amazing. You feed them all the time.
Yeah, we do.
And they just know you.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, because you'd never see that.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, a lot of people are scared of them, but if you just sort of offer them food and be calm around them,
I know,
yeah.
They're so lovely.
Aw, thanks.
Oh, I see ya.
See ya.
Nice walk. Oh, you should have a nice walk. It's an awesome evening.
It is an awesome evening. So these guys, okay, so we had the dart, and SPCA couldn't get them, and it took them about 5 days to come and get him. I like to say Mr. Dart. Well, of course, that's where he gets his name. It's because the second day or the third day, I was calling up SPCA every day, and we were coming here to see if they'd got him yet. And I would get on the phone with them, and I would go, do you have an update on the dart swan? And at first the woman was like, what? And she was a bit bemused, and then it took her a while to figure out who I was talking about. And then the next time I would call up and be like, do you have news on the dart swan? They'd say, no, we haven't got him yet, but we're coming out again to try. And so he was he was escaping. Come on, Dart.
But they also wanted us to
Come
call
on,
them
Dart.
because we could tell tell them where
Yeah.
he was. if we saw him.
Exactly. So they didn't sort of know which part of the park he was in. And so eventually it became clear that Dart couldn't actually bend down to eat, so he couldn't eat his natural food because he couldn't bend his neck down because of the bolt. And he was getting weaker and weaker, and he could barely take peas out of my hand, actually. He had no pressure in his beak, and you could just feel that he was getting weak. And I started getting into a panic, thinking he was going to die, actually, if it went much longer without getting help. And then finally, we heard the next day, I was making calls, and I was calling the Auckland Council and everything to get help. And finally, we heard that he had been caught, finally, by Fenton at the SPCA. And a photographer was here and took really cool photos of it. And he went down to Green Bay Bird Rescue, and they took the dart out of him, and it wasn't a really serious wound because it had just gone through fat and not through any serious arteries or anything like that. And he stayed there overnight, and the next day he was brought back. And what was funny was they put they painted the top of his head with a neon yellow paint, like in this sort of straight line on the top of his head. And when he would do his preening, the feathers with the paint on it would stand straight up. So it looked like he had this neon yellow mohawk. And then what was even crazier was the little white feathers on his wound where it was healing when they would start to grow back in. He would preen there on his front, and he would get these little white feathers stuck to the yellow paint on his mohawk. So his hair looked really crazy for a while. I wish I had a photo of that because it was hysterical. And he would just come up with this crazy mohawk hairdo with white feathers on the top, being like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And he had no idea, of course, how funny he looked. Ooh, get the last one. Yeah. So ever since then, and I remember when he came back, we were quite keen to see him again, and we would try to feed him, but he was nowhere to be found for about a week. He was hiding out. And then finally we saw him, but he was back over here by this island, and he would not come close to us. And then finally I went out on the edge of these rocks to where I was almost afraid I was going to fall in, and was reaching out with peas just for him and saying, "Come on, it's okay." And he eventually took the peas out of my hand again. And then after that, he figured we were okay again, and then he would go and feed out of Donald's hand. And then he's been quite friendly ever since then. Yeah. And they always recognize us when we come, which is quite cool. And they always greet us with their head nods, which is their way to say hello. Wah! And I love it when he honks. He's quite vocal.
He thinks you're part of his family.
Yeah.
He defends Marie sometimes. Like if he thinks that I'm moving too fast towards her into his zone, he's not scared for himself. He wants to defend Marie, and so he'll hiss at me and bite at me, and then he'll immediately kind of apologise. Like, "Oh, what did I do that for?" kind of thing. But he's actually defending Marie because he thinks that she's his family.
Aww.
It's my theory.
He's quite a cool swan. The Chuck Norris of swans.